Hey you guys, this is Sean McNeil with New World Reviews. Hey guys, I want to do this kind of preliminary video giving you guys a quick rundown of the announcements that were made at the Apple event this morning and the changes that are coming to the iPod line for the coming year. First of all, they announced that the iPod Shuffle is coming down in price, $59 for a 2 gig version and $79 for a 4 gigabyte version. Really no new features, but there's not too much you can add to something as small as the Shuffle. It's still going to be in 5 colors, and it's going to have an aluminum case. But if you want to spend $99, you can get a polished stainless steel case. It's kind of a silvery color. They also have a silver-colored aluminum, so you can choose whether or not to get the silver-colored aluminum for $79 or the silver-colored stainless steel for $99. It's just, I guess, a matter of preference. The Nano is, I think, the big story of the event today. I didn't want it to be. I wanted the big story to be the iPod Touch, but it's not. The iPod Nano is going to come out for $149 for an 8 gig version, or just $30 more, $179 for a 16 gigabyte version. So it seems to me that they kind of want you to buy the 16 gig version, seeing as how they're only making it $30 more for double the capacity. But the biggest news is that it's coming out with a video camera. So kind of like you see all of these flip cams and little tiny Sony and Kodak hand palm size cameras coming out. This is going to have a video camera on it. I'm not sure if it's going to be HD. I doubt it, but I don't know. The iPod Nano itself is going to have a 2.2 inch display. It's going to be able to do Genius mixes, and also for the first time ever on an Apple device, there's going to be an FM tuner, which I think is great because right now I have a SanDisk Sansa clip, and it has an excellent FM tuner on it, and I just have been hoping for years that it would come to all of the iPods. Now they're only putting it on the iPod Nano this year, but it's a step in the right direction. If you still want radio on let's say your iPhone, then you can download an app. They have a lot of local radio stations have their own apps that play their radio. So you can do that, but I mean, I wish they would just put an FM tuner on all of their Apple devices. Really, for the price that you pay for a Sansa clip, it's really in the iPod Shuffle category, and even it has an FM tuner. So I don't see why they couldn't put an FM tuner on every Apple device. Anyways, that's the Nano. It's going to come in 9 colors, so look for that. Pretty good price too. I think that's going to be the big seller over the next year. The iPod Classic is going to have only one version available. It's going to be for it's 160 gigabytes for $249. And it's also going to have Genius playlists and cover flow, but not too much is changing about that. The way I look at the Classic is either you're someone with a gigantic music or movies collection that you want to have on the go, or you want your music player to also be like a portable hard drive, because 160 gigs is pretty big. But not too much changing with the Classic. The iPod Touch, I was hoping would have a camera, at least a camera, but also a video camera, possibly an HD video camera. But we saw none of that. There's not going to be a camera on the iPod Touch this year. So I heard some reports earlier that Apple was buying cases for their iPod Touches, and that they had holes in the back, just like the iPhone cases. So if there was any truth to that rumor, those cases are probably going to be for next year, not this year. There's going to be an 8 gigabyte model for $199, and then there's the 32 gigabyte model for $299, and then a 64 gigabyte model for $399. Now, the 8 gigabyte model is going to be very similar to the iPod Touch that's currently out there, just a lowered price. It's not going to be in the 200s anymore. It's right at $200. But the 32 gigabyte and the 64 gigabyte models both are going to have voice control, which is something that we saw that rolled out on the iPhone earlier this year. So the earphones that come with those two models are going to have a remote and mic attached, which is pretty cool. A lot of people are talking about, okay, well, they were waiting on the iPod Touch to see if it was going to have a video camera this year, and so now that it doesn't, a lot of people I think are going to buy this Zune HD, this Microsoft Zune that's coming out later in the year. So I'm going to kind of put some of the specs up right here to my left, and so you guys can kind of compare the Zune HD with the iPod Touch. The Zune HD is going to come out in 2 different models. There's going to be a 16 gigabyte version and a 32 gigabyte version. 16 gigs for $219, and the 32 gigs for $289. Now the Zune HD boasts HD video playback on an OLED screen, which is supposed to have very nice picture quality. It's supposed to be pretty thin and also consumes very little electricity since there's no light source in an OLED display, as compared to like an LCD display, which has to have a light source for you to see the colors. An OLED doesn't use that at all. The Zune HD also has an HD radio receiver. And a lot of the specs of the Zune HD and how the interface is, we won't know till later this year. We won't know till closer to the launch date or the shipping date. But you can go ahead and pre-order that now if you wanted to. So I'm going to kind of really quickly compare put a little chart up comparing the prices of the iPod Touch and Zune HD, and then comparing some of the features of the iPod Touch and Zune HD. But this was just kind of a quick video. Go ahead and as soon as Apple puts their Keynote address on their website, I'm going to put a link to that Keynote into the sidebar over here, and you guys can click and watch it if you want. It's probably going to be like an hour and a half or 2 hours. So, but they're always interesting to watch. The last one, the Keynote address that I think came out, I don't know, May, June, July, the one where they announced the new iPhone changes. It was pretty interesting. I heard this one wasn't quite as thrilling to watch, but Steve Jobs was there, and he got I think on CNN they said he got a 45-second standing ovation, which was nice. Glad to see he's back. Glad to see that he's in good health and that his liver transplant is working pretty well. But check back later for some more detailed videos about the iPod Touch specifically, because that's the one I know a lot of people are interested in. And I'll see you guys next time.